I refused to quit college after my parents took a third mortgage for their golden child sister's failed bakery and demanded I sacrifice my future to save them. Hi everyone, it's really late at night right now, so please ignore any mistakes that I make, or if I start ranting, because I'm in a messed up situation right now. I, a 19-year-old female, have an older sister, a 23-year-old female, and she's a golden child for my parents. Full disclosure, I don't think my parents even wanted to have me and have always made it a point to make me feel ignored and unwanted. I was always the less important kid, and they would discourage me from doing anything that would steal the limelight from my sister. My sister herself is pretty damn ordinary. I'm going to be blunt and say that she's just not as good as me in any way whatsoever. Yet, she's the one my parents have always hyped up and supported. I was always better than her in academics, in sports, and just outdid her in every area. I think part of it was because I'm really competitive, since I wanted the attention and affection that my parents showered on my sister. I kept trying to outdo her at everything so that they'd love me. But that only made them dislike me more, and they'd call me an attention seeker. I think by the time I reached high school, I knew that nothing I did would make them like me more than my sister, and I gave up trying to impress them. I didn't stop outperforming my sister, though. I was still scoring well and taking part in sports and stuff. But now the only difference was that I was doing it for myself and my future, not for my parents. I'd say my sister was also jealous of me and enjoyed the attention that my parents gave her. So naturally, she couldn't stand it when she realized that only our parents would play favorites and pick her, but everyone apart from them could see clearly who the better sibling was. I put in my best efforts to make her my friend, but she was always too full of herself to even consider being nice to me, so by the time it was time for me to go to college, I wasn't on good terms with anyone in my family. And I think we were all really relieved to get rid of each other. I started college 2 years back, and I'm a business major because I've always fancied myself an entrepreneur. I don't have to pay the full tuition either, because I got a scholarship, and whatever amount I do have to pay is covered by my best friend's dad. My best friend is well aware of my family's situation, and also knows that they would never give me any money if it meant that I would stand the chance to do better in life than my sister. So, her dad stepped up and paid for my spot so that I wouldn't have to ask my parents for money, and neither would I have to get a student loan. 60% of my tuition has been waived off because of the scholarship anyway, so it's not a lot of money that he has to spend, but I'm still really grateful to him. I obviously do plan on returning the money to him eventually, when I have the means to, but for now, he's the one who's handling my education as well as his own daughters. They're really rich too, unlike my own family, so it's not a problem for them. And I'm really lucky that they're so generous, unlike my parents. My parents think I'm studying here for free because I told them that 100% of my tuition would be waived off, and they were greatly relieved because they wouldn't have to spend a single dime on my education and could continue spoiling their eldest daughter. I'm also working a part-time job as a tutor to cover other expenses, and I get by somehow. I have to live frugally, but since my accommodation and food are taken care of by the college, since I live on campus, I don't have much to worry about. My family is not very financially stable, and my parents had already mortgaged all their jewelry in my grandpa's house 4 years ago to be able to fund their textile business. While it helped a little, they're still not doing as well as they'd like to. They don't let me have a say or advise them either, so I can't help them. I used to be really paranoid about their debts until I read somewhere that since I'm not a co-signer on their debts, I'm not going to inherit them either. Since then, I've stopped caring because they don't want my help, and I don't want to waste my time helping people who don't respect me or my business acumen. Yesterday, however, I received a call from my parents in the afternoon where they told me that my sister was in trouble, and so were they, and they needed my help to bail them out of this. Apparently, my parents had mortgaged the house they currently resided in almost 1 year ago to fund my sister's bakery. My sister had no idea how to run a business since she'd never gone to college, and neither was she that good at baking either. So I don't know why any of them thought it was a good idea. They'd never told me about the loan, and I wasn't interested in where they got the money from to help her start her business, so I never found out about the mortgage until they told me themselves. Now they demanded that I come back and help them handle all their accounts and run their business because my sister had to shut hers down since it wasn't making any money. They wanted me to start working full-time so that I could contribute to the family, bail them out, and join the family business to manage it. They actually expected me to quit college so that I could do all of this, and said to me in a very matter-of-fact voice, as if this was a normal demand to make. When I asked them why exactly I would quit college for their sake, they told me that as a member of this family, I owed it to them, since I wouldn't be able to go to college, run the family business, and work a second job all at once. I had to quit one thing, and they thought college was the most obvious option, since it required me to stay away from home anyway, and would be one less obstacle in my way. I was actually speechless that they were saying all that so casually, as if they weren't just asking me to sacrifice my future because they were stupid and had no idea how to manage their money. I lost it while my dad was telling me that my sister needed my help, and that if I didn't want to lose my home, I needed to come back right away and get to work. The sheer audacity of that got under my skin, and I ended up telling him that I didn't owe them anything, and that what happened to him or my mom or my sister was none of my business, because I didn't think of them as my family at all. They'd never treated me like their own, and it always made me feel bad about myself. And now, when they needed my help, they wanted to play happy family all of a sudden. When my dad argued, saying that even if I didn't want to come back for the sake of my family, I could at least come back for the sake of the place I'd called home for the past 20 years. I told him that place was never my home. It was nothing more than a house for me, and that's what I told him before disconnecting the call and blocking my family everywhere. I'd still even bothered to keep in touch with them because I'd hoped that someday they'd change. But it was as clear as day to me now that that day would never come, and I was sick of waiting for them to be decent people. I was in a horrible mood the entire day, and didn't attend any classes, and neither did I speak to anyone because I was, and still am, feeling a lot of things all at once. I feel really angry that my parents not only wanted but even expected me to give up my future and my dreams, just because my sister had messed up big time, and so had they, honestly. But I also feel so weirdly guilty for turning my back on them, knowing that I'm fully capable of helping them. I don't know where this guilt is even coming from, and I don't know what to do about this either. It's been one day, and I thought I'd feel better eventually, but I still feel like crap. The last time I saw my family was last Christmas, and we had a decent time. I didn't enjoy myself, but they weren't picking on me, and my sister was civil to me as well. But now I think it was all an act, because they knew that they'd need my help at some point. I just feel so weird and horrible. I haven't spoken to anyone about this, not even my best friend, because I don't even know where to start. I guess the reason I'm here is because I really could do with some reassurance that I'm not in the wrong here. So, am I the asshole for abandoning my family when they needed my help after they mistreated me my entire life? Update 1. Hi everyone. I don't know where exactly to begin, but I really just want to thank everyone who validated my feelings and reassured me that I wasn't being selfish here. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't know why my parents would even think that I would do what they asked of me after all that they'd put me through. I can't believe that I skipped one whole day of classes just because of this bullcrap. I guess that's the part that I regret the most right now. Laugh out loud. It's been 3 days since then, and I haven't heard from them yet. I don't know what they're up to, and I don't care either, as long as they don't bother me again. I have a lot to worry about already, and I don't need more of it. I told my best friend about what my parents told me, and she's honestly so sweet that she offered to help me out instantly, but I told her that I was all right and had nothing to worry about. The only thing I wanted from her was emotional support and some reassurance that everything would be all right. Because, honestly, my mental health had just gone for a toss after that day. It's not my family that I'm worried about, but myself. I probably won't have a home to go back to once I'm out of college, and even though I know my friends would be willing to help me out, I don't think I want to constantly have to rely on my friends. I have to work twice as hard now to make sure that I graduate top of my class and land a well-paying job as soon as I'm out of college, because I really can't afford to slack off right now. I've been driving myself nuts with anxiety about the future, and I can't get myself to stop, even though I know I can't really control what's going to happen, and all I can do is give my best. Gee, I just wish my family wasn't awful like this. Update 2. So, my family showed up at college today, and I was shocked that they'd even had the audacity to turn up here after what they'd done. They said that they wanted to take me out for lunch and discuss certain things with me. We were in the lobby, and I didn't want to have a dramatic showdown in front of all my friends, so I agreed to go with them just so that they'd leave me alone. I didn't trust them though, so I said that I'd choose the place, and I picked the diner that I usually went to whenever I felt like having something other than the food from the cafeteria. The owners knew me really well, so I knew that I could count on them to help me out if my family tried anything funny. When I went there, I did see the man who owned the restaurant as well, working at the counter, so I knew I was safe, and I even waved at him to let him know I was there. Once we were sitting, they told me to order some food, but I refused to because I just didn't feel like eating with them, and I'd rather go hungry. But they insisted, so I ordered a lemonade, but no food. They ordered 4 meals for themselves, and while we waited for the food to come, they got to the purpose of their little visit. They told me that they were there to talk about the financial crisis they were facing, which I already knew. Once again, they told me to reconsider what they asked me earlier, and once again, I had to tell them that I wasn't quitting college to help them with their loans, because they hadn't consulted me or included me in the discussions before making those decisions. So now it wasn't my responsibility anymore. My sister got agitated and started accusing me of being jealous of her, which is why I was refusing to help them out. This was laughable since she literally had nothing that could make me feel jealous. She was the one who'd always been insecure because of me, and not the other way around. Speaking of which, a lot of you said that I sounded bitter and resentful while talking about my sister in the first post, and I just want to touch on that before I continue. So, yes, I most certainly did sound that way, and it's because I am bitter and resentful. She was always favored over me, even though she never did anything to deserve the preferential treatment, and I was always pushed aside because of her. I think anyone else in my place would have felt the same way. But anyway, my mother managed to shush my sister, and then came the emotional blackmail. My parents started talking about how the only reason I was even able to go to college was because they educated me and made sure that I had everything I needed to cinch a spot in a good college once it was time. That was the bare minimum that they could have done for a child that they chose to bring into the world. And let's not forget that what they were saying was required by law, so it's not as if they were doing me a favor. I told them that I wasn't doing anything for them, and that was my final decision, so they might as well go back home and leave me alone. I told them that if they came back here, then I'd report them to Security and Child Protective Services as well. My dad got really mad and almost looked like he was going to yell at me right there. But my mom stopped him and gave me a nasty and disgusted look before saying that they were ashamed of me and that I was nothing but a disappointment to them. Then they left without even waiting for the food they'd ordered, and of course, they didn't even pay for it. When I asked the owner about it, my sister was the only one who looked back and said that I could pay for it since this place was my choice anyway, and then walked out smiling smugly. I was really upset, and even though I tried my very best to hold it together for the past few days, I just couldn't anymore. My parents and sister were just the worst, and it was clear now that they would leave no stone unturned to make me feel like crap about myself. I was devastated, and I hate to admit it, but my mom's words really stung. They called me a disappointment just because I refused to be trampled over by them. I tried to push down my feelings, but I couldn't anymore, and after they left, I broke down in the diner itself. And it wasn't even silent tears, but a full-blown breakdown. It was really embarrassing, but I just couldn't stop myself, and the tears just kept coming while I hiccuped, and in a few seconds, everyone there was looking at me. I tried to get up and leave, but the owner's wife, who also knew me, came by my booth, grabbed my arm, and led me behind the counter, and I let her because I just didn't know what else to do. She and her husband sat with me, consoled me, and made sure that I stopped crying. They let the other waiters take charge, and I was so grateful that they were being so helpful, even though I was having a breakdown in their diner and disturbing all their other guests. When they asked me what was wrong, I tried to explain, but I could barely even speak because I was so overwhelmed. So, I just told them the short version, that my parents and I had a fight, and they left without paying. They must have known that there was more to it, but didn't push, seeing how I was in a really bad space. Then, the owner told me that they could pack all the food that they'd prepared, and that I didn't need to pay for it either. Of course, I'm going to pay them back because it was a crapload of food, but I'm really thankful that they didn't bother me about it and even called a cab for me to send me back to college and paid for that out of their own pockets. It's really because of the kindness and warmth that other people in my life have shown me that I've not completely lost my mind yet. Once I got back to my dorm room, I called my best friend and asked her if she could put me in touch with a lawyer as soon as possible and explained what had happened today. I was afraid that if my parents were willing to come all the way to my college just to harass me, then there really was no telling what other shenanigans they might get up to. Now, since I already refused to help them, they had nothing to lose now and would probably try even harder to bother me and get under my skin. I had to do something to prevent that from happening, so I got my best friend involved. When I told her what had happened today, she told me that she'd visit me with her father and their family lawyer as soon as they could, and that I didn't need to worry about anything. So, I feel like I can finally relax a little because I know she'll help me out. I feel immensely guilty for bothering her and her dad so often, but I have nowhere else to go and nobody else to look to. At least I'm fortunate enough to have found such a great friend with an equally amazing father who's more than willing to step up and do what my own father never would have. I really can't wait to see them tomorrow because my best friend's presence is enough to calm me down. She's been my friend since kindergarten and knows me better than anyone and is aware of how much I struggle with anxiety, so she always tries to keep me relaxed. She's like my own personal anxiety pill, and I love her the most. Her dad is just like her and is literally the best example of what a father should be like. I say that they're more like family to me than my own parents and sister have ever been. In fact, even the couple who own the diner are kinder, and they've just known me for 1 year. I hate my family, and I really wish I hadn't been born in their house. At this point, I won't even call them greedy or mean, but just plain cruel because they really don't care about what they put others through as long as they're good. I really wish that they suffer more, honestly, because now it's just their bad karma that's finally getting to them. I wish nothing but the worst for them, especially after what they did to me today. Today was just unforgivable. Update 3. I've been kind of busy with work and a lot of other things, so I haven't been active here. But again, thank you guys so much for your kind words. I'm doing a lot better now, and I have also started therapy to deal with my emotions because I realized that the things that were happening to me weren't normal. And just because I'd been facing these things all my life didn't make it all fine all of a sudden. I'd also been stressed about my future, and I felt like I'd fall really sick if this continued. So, my best friend and her dad made me start therapy, which I'm grateful for. They also put me in touch with their lawyer when they visited me around 3 weeks back, and were filing a restraining order against them in a few days. The plan is to get myself legally estranged from them altogether in the long run. 3 weeks back, when my best friend and her dad visited me a day after my parents dropped by, I was a total mess and an emotional wreck, to say the least. But they really helped me. Her dad reassured me that I had nothing to worry about as long as I had them by my side, and even said that I was as good as his own daughter now. My best friend doesn't have a mother since she'd passed away a few months after my friend was born, but they told me that if she was ever to have a sister, I'd be the kind of person they'd expect her to be. That touched me, and alleviated a lot of the guilt that I'd been feeling. They reassured me that I wasn't a burden on them, never had been, and they were more than happy to stand by me. I spoke to their lawyer, and the next day, unfortunately, Dad and the lawyer had to go back to work, but my best friend stayed with me for a few days, and we had a ton of fun. She made everything easier, and for a few days I was able to forget everything about my family. She was also the one who forced me to look for therapists near me, and even made me book my first session. I've been attending 2 sessions every week since then, and I'm still a long way from being completely fine, but this is a start. My family hasn't tried to get in touch with me since the last time, but just to be on the safe side, we're still filing for a restraining order because I really don't trust them and neither do I feel safe around them. All I can say right now is that I'm really grateful for all that I do have, and I hope things get better here onwards. It's been almost 4 months since that awful day at the diner, and I still sometimes wake up with my heart racing, half expecting my phone to light up with another guilt trip text or another blocked number trying to reach me. The restraining order went through without too much drama. Turns out the documentation of their unannounced visit to campus, plus the diner owner's willingness to write a short statement about what happened, helped more than I thought it would. My lawyer, who I still can't believe is my lawyer, says we're on track for formal estrangement proceedings next year. It feels strange to say it out loud. I'm going to legally erase them from my life. Part of me still flinches at the word erase, like I'm the villain in some tragic family movie. But then I remember my mother's disgusted face, my sister's smug little smile as she walked away leaving me with 4 untouched plates, and the way my dad's voice sounded almost relieved when he said I was a disappointment. That memory is louder than any guilt. Therapy is hard, really hard. Some weeks I leave sessions feeling lighter, like I've finally put down a suitcase I didn't even know I was carrying. Other weeks I cry the entire walk back to my dorm because the little girl inside me is still screaming, "Why wasn't I enough? Why was I never enough?" My therapist keeps reminding me that the question itself is a trap my parents built. They made sure I spent my whole childhood trying to solve a problem that was never mine to fix. I'm slowly, very slowly, starting to believe her. I still get waves of anger, not the explosive kind anymore. More like a low, steady burn. I'm furious at how casually they tried to trade my future for their mistakes. Furious that they looked at my scholarship, my part-time tutoring, my late-night studying, and decided none of it mattered next to my sister's failed bakery. Furious that they thought family meant the person who can be sacrificed when we run out of other options. But underneath the anger, there's something quieter now. Something that hurts in a different way. Grief. I'm grieving the parents I wish I'd had. The ones who would have been proud of my report cards without comparing them to my sister's. The ones who would have asked about my business ideas instead of shutting them down. The ones who would have hugged me after a bad day instead of telling me I was too sensitive. I never had those parents. I never will. And accepting that truth feels like burying a child I loved who never got to exist. At the same time, I'm surrounded by people who chose me. My best friend still shows up with coffee when I have a 7 a.m. exam and a panic attack at 6. Her dad texts me dad jokes and reminds me to eat something that isn't instant noodles. The diner couple wave at me every time I walk past now. Last week they slipped an extra slice of pie into my bag for the road. I've started letting myself believe that I'm not a burden to them. That maybe, just maybe, I'm someone worth showing up for. I'm still scared about the future. I don't have a safety net. No childhood bedroom to run back to. No parents who will co-sign an apartment lease. But I'm learning that fear doesn't mean failure. It just means I have to keep moving forward anyway. I'm on track to graduate next year with honors if I can keep this pace. I've already had 2 internships reach out because of a project I did last semester. I tutor 4 nights a week now, and I'm saving every cent I can. It's exhausting, but it's mine. Every grade, every paycheck, every small victory belongs to me, not to a family that only remembered I existed when they needed something. I used to think cutting them off would make me cold, hard, unlovable. But I don't feel cold. I feel lighter. Like I finally stopped holding my breath waiting for approval that was never coming. I'm allowed to build a life that doesn't include people who only ever saw me as a backup plan. To anyone still reading all these ridiculously long posts, thank you. Seriously. Your words kept me from spiraling when I was convinced I was the worst daughter, sister, human alive. If you're in a similar situation, please hear me. You're not selfish for protecting your future. You're not heartless for choosing yourself after years of being treated like an afterthought. You're allowed to walk away, you're allowed to grieve, and you're allowed to build something beautiful out of the wreckage they left behind. I'm not completely okay yet, but I'm okay enough to keep going. And right now, that feels like the biggest win of my life. Thank you for listening. I think I'm finally ready to close this chapter.